All right, for the jury. Okay, you can be seated. Mr. Johnson?
Thank you, Your Honor. The people call Jacqueline George.
Ms. George, come up to the witness stand, please. And if I can have you raise your right hand before you sit down. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Have a seat. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Ms. George.
Good afternoon.
Could you please start by introducing yourself to the jury and spelling your last name?
I'm Jacqueline George, George.
And Ms. George, where do you live?
Thornton, Colorado.
Okay. And what do you do there?
Just going to school.
And what do you where are you going to school?
CU Boulder,
And what are you studying?
computational linguistics.
Okay. Back on November 19th of 2012, did you live in Vallecito in around Bayfield, Colorado?
Yes.
How old were you back then?
10.
And what was your address in November of 2012?
I believe it was 242 West Grants Creek Road.
Okay. Is that on County Road 500?
Yes, right.
Or-
opposite.
Okay. And Judge, may I publish People's 23?
Yes.
Thank you. Behind you, Ms. George, do you recognize the area in that map?
Yes.
There's a pointer right on the counter there. Could you indicate for the jury about where you lived on that map?
That's the open point.
Yes, please, if it's okay with the court.
That's fine. And could you talk into the microphone, or you just pull it out? Or bring it with you, whatever you want to do. And you have to stand kind of to the side. It's a lot of rules here, so the jury can see what's going on.
Okay, so I live right around here.
Okay. And then, do you know are you familiar with where the Vallecito Market is?
Yes, it was right around this corner.
So down 501. Okay. Thank you. Is that directionally south of your house?
Yes.
May I approach, Judge?
Yes.
So this right here you recognize as CR 500.
Yes.
And then if you come down 501, the market is down on this road.
Can you step forward to the side, please?
Yes, sir. It's down on this road. So you cross this section of 501 to come down.
Yeah, that little point where all three, like, yes, like, nope.
You come past that down here somewhere.
Yeah.
Is it maybe a little further south than you pointed, or
Yes, a little
Only-
further south in the
a
community.
little further south? Okay, thank you. Do you recall the Monday before Thanksgiving of 2012 by it being the day that Dylan Redwine went missing?
Yes.
And were you aware when it happened? Was it a big deal in the area? Okay. I know it was a long time ago, so if you don't remember anything, just let me know, okay? Do you recall what you were doing that day?
Yes.
What were you doing that day?
Me and my friend Morgan had walked to the country market to go buy ice cream.
And is that the route, you walked the route that you had just indicated to the jury? Do you recall what time that was?
Between 1 and 2.
in the afternoon? And who, you had said Morgan was with you. How old was he? Do you recall?
Around my age, so give or take a year.
Okay. And what was his appearance generally?
He had long, like blondish hair and around 5 foot.
Do you recall what he was wearing that day?
I believe it was a sweatshirt, a backpack, and jeans.
Okay. Did it have a hoodie?
Yes.
And did he do something that made you aware he had a backpack that day when you're at the store?
Yes, he always would put his wallet in his backpack. I remember him grabbing it out and putting it back.
What were you wearing that day?
I can't recall, but if I had to guess, it'd be sweatshirt and jeans.
Okay. And do you recall if you had a backpack or not? Have you ever been described as a tomboy before? Can you just explain that to the jury?
Yeah, I just played outside a lot when I was a little kid. Kind of just like a boy, I guess.
Was your hair brown back then?
Yeah.
And how did you typically wear it?
Just back in a ponytail.
Did you ever tuck the ponytail into your shirt?
Yeah,
And about how tall were you back then, if you recall?
a little over 5 foot.
Did you know the mail lady in the area, Angela Lee?
No, I didn't.
What's that?
I didn't know her.
Did you know what she looked like, et cetera? Okay. Do you know what she drove, or did you know what the mail lady in the area drove?
I remember seeing the mail vehicle that day.
Okay. What kind of vehicle was it?
A Jeep.
Okay. You said you saw it that day. Was that around the time frame that you were just describing walking to the market? Can you just tell the jury what you saw?
When me and my friend were walking to the market, I believe I saw her vehicle parked across the Lake Eileen trailhead.
Is that on that route that you had just described, basically? Okay. And was it on the 501 side of that route? Or, you know what, may she approach the screen, Judge? Yes. Can you show the jury about where you recall that being?
It was right around here.
Okay. And did you talk to law enforcement about that at some point in time?
Yes.
And did they interview you about some of the same questions I just asked you?
Mm-hmm.
At that time, did they ask if they could take a picture of you for some follow-up investigation?
Yes.
And did they interview Morgan as well and take a picture of him?
Yes.
Judge, may I approach this list and mark people's 398 and 397?
Yes.
Ms. George, have you seen people's 397 and 398 before?
Yes.
Are those fair and accurate photographs of how you and Morgan appeared back in November 19th of 2012, roughly? Or I guess, let's just say within a few months of that.
Yeah.
Okay. I move to admit 397 and 398 into evidence at this time, Your Honor.
Any objection?
I think we already admitted him.
Well, I was looking for that. I don't think so.
No, counsel may be right.
Is it a different number?
I think it's a defense number on the pictures from a previous witness,
Well,
perhaps.
Let's just do it again, and that way, we've got them. So other than anything else, Mr. Moran? Okay, they're both accepted.
So Ms. George, if I could publish these.
Yes.
Who is that in that picture?
That's Morgan Crawford.
Okay. And 398, who is that?
That's me.
Okay. Did you know Dylan Redwine?
Yes.
Did you know him from communications and interactions with him, et cetera?
Yeah, on the school bus in school mostly.
Did he look like Morgan Crawford back then?
Yeah, they had like the same hair length and color. He could easily be mistaken for Morgan vice versa.
Did you ever see Dylan Redwine when you were out that day walking on County Road 500 and 501?
No.
I don't have any more questions. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Moran?
Good afternoon, Ms. George. Do you recall that back then, when it was an investigator, Goldbright, came to speak with you? Do you remember that was her name?
I don't remember her name, but I do remember 2 investigators coming to speak with me in Bayfield.
Was one of those investigators blonde hair
Yeah.
woman?
Mm-hmm.
And do you recall that at the time you informed those investigators that you didn't remember what you were wearing?
Mhm. I
Yes
believe
or
I
no's,
told,
please? You said, if this is the second time. I need yes or no's.
Okay.
So could you ask the question again?
Sure. Do you remember at the time you said you don't remember what you were wearing?
I believe I told them, I don't remember what I was wearing, but I recall, or not recall, I believe it was sweatshirts and jeans, because that's typically all I wore then.
And also that you said you don't remember that you were wearing a backpack?
Yes.
If you were wearing a backpack, was it the one that you could see the backpack straps on in the photograph in front of you?
No, I didn't. No.
That photograph was taken close in time to when this interview occurred, right?
Hmm.
But that wouldn't have been the backpack.
No.
Can I have the map put back up, please? May I approach?
Yes.
Do I have my directions oriented properly to remember that the firehouse is somewhere in here?
No. Wait. Can I show you?
So closer to the country market.
I think that's the main firehouse up there, but not the one that was mentioned.
And do you remember that Jimmy Adcock lived around here?
I don't know who that is.
You don't need Mr. Adcock. When you saw the mail lady, she was at the trailhead.
Across from the trailhead. No, that'd be right by the firehouse. So it's the firehouse and the trailhead directly across from the, like, the road splits it up. Okay, so it's like the firehouse is on one side of the road, then the Lake Eileen trailhead's on the other side.
This road that is intersecting firehouse.
No, it is on the side. Straight one.
So Ms. Lee, based on your recollection, was not moving towards the mailbox, she was at the trailhead?
She was across from it by the firehouse, because there was a pull-off right there, and that's where I believe I saw her parked.
I see. And did you see that there was another gentleman in the area that would have been able to observe you approximately where she was at, that she later conversed with?
No.
And how old were you at the time?
10.
And you remember that Dylan was a few years older than you were?
Yes.
And were you aware that he moved away around this time, that he moved away
No.
sometime
I
before?
wasn't aware.
Mr. Johnson?
Objection is beyond scope.
It is.
No, there was testimony, or, never mind. Back then, you wore your hair lighter than you do now, is that fair?
You mean like lighter in color?
Yes.
I believe so, yeah. Probably gone darker over time.
How long had passed since you last saw Dylan prior to when the police spoke with you?
I don't recall.
Would it have been a couple of days or longer?
I
than
never
that?
recall seeing him in, like, since the bus, maybe years before, if that.
It had been years since you saw Dylan.
Maybe I don't remember ever seeing him up there since riding the bus with him.
So would not have had any awareness of how he was wearing his hair when you observed him.
I'm sorry, what can you ask
It
about
had
him?
been years since you'd seen him, so you didn't know how he was wearing his hair, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming down from Boulder.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay. Any questions from the jury? All right, Ms. George, you are free to go. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Your Honor, the people rest.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the evidence in this case is complete. I'm going to give you my admonitions, and then I'll tell you what we're going to do, because I just don't want to forget the admonitions. So, please remember that when you leave, you're not to discuss this case either amongst yourselves or with anyone else during the course of the trial. Do not initiate, post, or respond to anything in this case on social media. In fairness to the parties of this lawsuit, you should keep an open mind throughout the trial, and you should reach your decision only during your final deliberations after I tell you to go that you're going to deliberate. Do not permit any third person to discuss this case in your presence. If anyone attempts to do so, please report that fact to me immediately. During this trial, please do not talk with any witnesses or with the defendant or with any lawyers in the case. Don't attempt to gather any information on your own. Do not engage in any outside reading on this case. Do not attempt to visit any places mentioned in the case. Do not read about the case in the newspaper or obtain information about it from the radio, television, internet, social media, or other media source. Don't try and learn about this case outside the courtroom. You must base your verdict solely upon what you heard inside the courtroom. So with that, we're going to let you go for the rest of the day. What we're going to do then is work on instructions. We're never sure how long that's going to take, and then there's some stuff we have to do with those instructions, so you have them in your notebooks. We've got to copy them and get them put in there, so that takes a little bit of time. So I don't want to waste your time just staying here. We have changed plans a little bit. Hopefully you have already given Cindy your order. You have everybody's orders? Okay, so we don't have to worry about that. We will feed you tomorrow. Exactly when lunch will be, I don't know, but it won't be an extensive lunch. But I had thought about bringing you back at 11 o'clock tomorrow, but I think based on conversations with attorneys that we're going to have you come back earlier. We'll have you come back at 8:30. There will probably be some stuff we have to do right at 8 o'clock, but we'll have you come back earlier. I will then read instructions. Counsel will then be allowed to make final arguments. After that, we'll go back and deliberate. We will release the alternates at that time, and I'll give them instructions because they don't get to all deliberate with you, but we're not telling you who they are until everything's over. So with that, have a good evening, and we'll see you tomorrow at 8:30. Well, yeah, everybody rise. Should everybody stand up, please? Thank you. I missed that. I thought you just wanted to. Yeah, we already did. Okay, we'll be in recess, and I got a couple things I need to do. So, who's ever going to work on instructions with me? What, a half hour, an hour? What do you guys want? You guys probably have to do stuff too, don't you?
Your Honor, the hiccup for me is going to be having printed versions of these. I'm just about ready to go. That hour would be great, unless I've got to get back and forth to the office. Is there going to be some way that I can provide what we're advocating for electronically and have that printed here? Otherwise, I'm going to have to go back to the office and start cutting trees.
But don't count on this ever happening.
Understood.
Okay. Yeah, but okay, so it's 1:30, so we'll meet back here.
And so the court's aware, I have the vast bulk of them. I've got a couple more I'm working on, but.
That's fine.
Oh, yeah. Fear of the defense, the argument.
Well, you will. Well, I don't know.
We can do it after the Arguello.
Anyway, you guys, or stay. I don't know.